Hi everybody, Baruch Hashem. We are now on doing part 4 of Va'eschanan, of Va'eschanan, also Parshas Nachamu Nachamu. This is probably one of the most amazing things where the Rebbe, what we'll learn inside, where the Rebbe explains that by learning Chassidus, and especially Dvar Malchus, about Gula redemption, that this reaches a person to the level of we were talking about before, that the person has to learn Nachamu Nachamu means has to do with redemption, and redemption has to do with doing things with unlimitedness. And we said that we have to do everything with Mo'odecha. It says, and we say in Shema Yisrael, here the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's one of the foundations of Judaism. In the first paragraph, we says that right away. It says, and you should and you should love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. So with all your heart, they say, you both have a good inclination and a bad inclination. So even the bad inclination, you have to not listen to and serve God with it. With all your soul means even give your soul over. Modech means more than the soul, means your whole essence, your whole beyond you, your whole inner being, your whole essence. Modecha. So we have to learn with our whole being. He says that's learning legable without limitation. And then here the Rebbe's going to, the Rebbe has explained in many places, in other places, that the learning especially has to do, the Rebbe talked about, has to do with the redemption. You have to learn about the redemption, and that particularly, like we said in the prior class, that the Rashbi says that it says that by learning Chassidus, or learning the Penimis Torah, the Rebbe emphasizes, especially the Torah, since the Rebbe says the 28th of Nisan, which is right after Pesach, 5751, which would be 1991. So the Rebbe emphasizes over there, if you look at Parshas Chukas, footnote 11, that's very important to learn. The main thing to learn now, the main inyan that we're doing, has to do with the complete redemption. And he says by learning, and explains over there, by learning from there especially, it's special importance. And that here where the Rebbe explains how is making new concepts, how it does. So let's start with a Adonai Shechi Negen Yechi Adonenu Mareinu Barabeinu Melech HaMoshiach Li'elam V'ed Yechi Adonenu Mareinu Barabeinu Melech HaMoshiach Li'elam V'ed Yechi 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 ay 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 did he ay 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 ay. Okay, so we're in this sefer, and it's also in English only. Dvar Malchus, this is in English with the original Hebrew Yiddish, and we're in Parshas Nachamu Nachamu. And on this sefer, and the bilingual one, we're on page 53. But it's the 11. It's the 11th chapter, which we know then is very important. It's that the 11 has to do with a very, very special high level, which the Rebbe is going to talk about, wonderful things. Okay, so in regard to actions, the Rebbe talked about before how we have to do everything in the way of Mo'odecha, with our complete might, with our complete being. So how do we do this? Since we find ourselves on the threshold of the true and complete redemption, in which all matters will be in a manner beyond bounds, there must be a foretaste on Erev Shabbos, in which it is good to taste from every single dish, of the boundlessness of the redemption through an addition in matters of Torah and commandments in a manner that transcends combines and limitations. So the Rebbe is saying here that we talk about everything has to do with redemption, Gula, we're in the level of redemption, special time, so therefore we have to do everything. Right now, the Rebbe is explaining, we're Erev Shabbos. And in Erev Shabbos, the Alter Rebbe says in Shulchan Aruch that it's a mitzvah to eat different foods that you have on Shabbos, because you're supposed to taste the Shabbos before Shabbos. You're supposed to bring in before. So the Rebbe says the same thing, that with every single dish, he's making a parable that we're supposed to taste the redemption now, because we're Shabbos, the Shabbos The Mashiach is the Indian of the Shabbos. The seventh millennium is the Indian of Shabbos. And more specifically, in an addition into the learning of Torah, utilizing the nights. Hold on. That we said before that it's also that right now we're talking about right after the 15th of the month of Menachem-Av, so the nights get longer. The Rebbe's talked about it. What does it mean the nights get longer? It means you have more time for study of Torah. And more specifically, in addition to in learning Torah, utilizing the nights which are longer than the days for Torah study, both the revealed parts of what are we going to study, both the revealed parts of the Torah as well as the inner aspects of the Torah, including the study of Ein Yaakov. Ein Yaakov is namely stories in the Torah, which most of the secrets of the Torah hidden in them. It's part of the Gemara that has all the stories in it, and they're very amazing stories. But it says the secrets are found in them. In addition, and mainly the Rebbe says, in addition to learning, it says that not only are we supposed to learn this, but even more so. This is the main thing to learn. The Rebbe says, the Iker, learning the inner aspects of the Torah, as the words of the Rizal says, whose yahrzeit is on the 5th of Menachem-Av. In the later generations, it's permissible, moreover, it's a mitzvah, a good deed to reveal this wisdom, and especially after it has been explained in Hasidus teachings in a manner that it will be grasped and understood by each and every Jew. So this, the Rebbe is pointing out that many people say you're not supposed to learn Hasidus, we're not supposed to learn the secrets of the Torah, we're only supposed to be a very special level, but the Rebbe is pointing out from the Riyah Kodesh, he says it's all for us. And he says especially the secrets of the Torah, the most wonders of the Torah, which the Rebbe says the main thing that we should be learning and adding in our learning and learning in a special way. He says this is how, because these secrets were brought down through Hasidus Chabad, and Hasidus teaches in a way how we become part of us. It's not beyond us. It becomes, we can live with the secrets of the Torah being part of us. A special emphasis should be placed on adding in learning Torah regarding aspects of the redemption, both in the revealed parts of the Torah, especially the works of the Rambam. The Rambam said, which includes also the laws that are related to the Rambam wrote a sefer that he wrote because at that time the Jews were in Gullus or had more difficulties, and he was worried that the laws of how to conduct yourself in the world were being lost. So he went and he wrote a sefer which is based, most of Shulchan Aruch and everything is based on today's Jewish law. And he wrote a sefer, and in this sefer, in this book, in this compilation, he not only wrote about the laws in their times, but he wrote us also what's going to be the laws in times of Mashiach. So he says he's writing the laws, how we're going to be, what's going to happen in Mashiach, and how we're going to live there, and what's working, how things are going to work. So it says, so Rebbe says that we have to, both in the revealed parts of the Torah, especially in the work of the Rambam, which includes also the laws that are related to the time of the redemption, i.e., the laws of the base of Mikdash, which we learned not long ago during the 3 weeks. The Rebbe's, well, this is after the 3 weeks, the Rebbe. Right now, actually, we're saying this in 3 weeks. But during the 3 weeks between Shabbos Tammuz, 17th of Tammuz, and when they broke into the wall of Yerushalayim until the destruction of the temple, we learned laws, especially have to do with the base of Mikdash building, including the laws of kings and their wars and the King Mashiach, and as well as the inner aspects of Torah, which in addition to the fact that the study of the inner aspects of the Torah in general hastens the redemption, Rebbe says that just by studying Hasidus and Zohar, it brings, by just learning this, it's an interesting thing. How by learning something you can bring something? Because when you learn it, and you really learn it because you really want to learn it and it becomes part of you, it's a real learning, it lifts you up. It's something amazing. So when you learn about Mashiach, you become lifted up. So and generally, by learning the secrets of the Torah, at any chassid, any sequence of the Torah, it hastens the redemption. With the main original author was Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the author of the Zohar. He says, with this work of yours, the teaching of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, with it we will leave the exile with mercy. So by learning Hasidus and the secrets of the Torah, we're going to end up, Hashem will take us out in a wonderful way to the final redemption, to the base of Mikdash, which you see right now. And there's a special virtue in learning the parts, the inner aspects of the Torah, which explains the aspects of redemption. So there the Rebbe goes even further. He first says that we have to learn in Yonav of Mashiach, and that in the revealed parts, which is the laws that was brought down by the Rambam. And then he says, in general, that's more important to learn. That's more the essential thing to learn is the secrets of the Torah. That's Chassidus, and we explains why, because we see that Rebbe Shimon Bar Yochai said that with learning Chassidus, we're going to be taken out of the Galus with mercy. And then he says there's even a further level of specialness, that when we're learning the parts of the inner aspects of the Torah, which explains the aspects of redemption. So that's the most important thing that Rebbe is saying here is to learn matters of redemption and Geula. That's more important. That brings redemption. That's the most important thing to learn. And it would be good that this learning should be in a manner of 10 tzibur who are sitting in and settled in a fixed manner and are occupied in an occupational manner. In other words, they're just totally involved. It's like, this is my occupation. This is what I do for a living. I learn Torah. Totally involved. 10 people should be just there studying. I mean, I go a lot of times to it's a Sephardic shul called Shuva Yisrael, and most of the guys there, you can see they're not religious from birth, but you see as they're sitting there and they're studying, they give laws. It's like this is their occupation. This is how we have to do. We have to be occupied. That this is me. This is what I'm involved with. This is my service. This is what I do. So when studying Torah, it's going to be totally much like that. As in the instruction of the Mishnayos laws, which we learn in Pirkei Avos of the Shabbos. So the Rebbe says, during the winter times, during the summer times, we learn one chapter Pirkei Avos. By Chabad we have it, and we have a custom do until Rosh Hashanah. Many people just do it till Shavuos. But we have, so according to the schedule, so therefore, what was said in this week's Parshas Va'eschanan, when the Rebbe said the Sikha, it was the third parak of Pirkei Avos, Ethics of the Father, and the third parak, which this it says, the Rebbe says that this alludes to, that this hints to it into the third redemption and the third base of Mikdash, which through them the double consolation for the first and second base of Mikdash is achieved. Now the Rebbe is going to say something, with something totally amazing. He's going to explain in this next paragraph that for a few things we're trying to understand. How do you serve God without limitation? And that we say, my understanding is that you learn deeply Chassidus. And he says that if you really get into Mashiach in a complete way, then not only are you living Mashiach, but everything you do, you put on tefillin, you daven, you give tzedakah, everything you're doing, how you think, everything is tied into this level of without limitation. This is what we're going to see this inside. This has to do with, that's why learning in Yonav Mashiach is important for me now. I always had this question earlier, why was it important to learn Mashiach now? I'm not here, we're in the Galus. What's important to learn now? How is it going to affect me? So, we'll see this inside. This is very important. And let's just learn it inside. And we may add, the Rebbe says, what we may add, if he's coming down to bring something new, is a lesson and instruction in connection with the concept of redemption, of the Geula. Also from the beginning of the third chapter, it says, in the beginning it says, Histagav Shloshos Devarim, look and contemplate into three things, and you won't come to the hands of the Devarim. So it says, the Rebbe says, contemplate upon three things. Three, undefined. We may says it just say three things. It doesn't say what they are. God, look at three things. It doesn't say what they are. So the Rebbe says we may say this is why amazing Kiddush, amazing new insight that the Rebbe's teaching us that nobody else taught before. This is something because the Rebbe is so much involved in this. He sees new things, and by learning with what we're going to learn in the next few minutes, it's life changing. So we may say that this alludes to the third base of Mikdash, three, and the third and the third redemption, and the threefold redemption and the threefold base of Mikdash, which includes the advantage of both the first redemption and the second redemption, and the first base of Mikdash and the second base of Mikdash, and both of them together, the advantage is united together. So the Rebbe in general, we learn that not only the third base of Migdash is going to be something special and beyond belief of everything else, but it's going to include all the special qualities that was in the first base of Migdash, first holy temple and second holy temple. And the first redemption and second, they're going to include all the special qualities in a complete way. So it's three things put together. So it says it says you should reflect on three things. The first thing, look into three things, and you won't come to the hands of doing a sin. So the word histakel means to reflect, to look deeply, to think about something in a complete way. So if you reflect on three things specifically, which denotes a very deep analysis and contemplation on the subjects of the third redemption and the third base of Mikdash, three things, together with this special anticipation and yearning that I want His Mashiach coming every day. We say we want every day Hashem should bring Mashiach. That we're waiting daily for Mashiach, and we're waiting with our whole being and whole soul. So this is in general, meaning that He can come every day. That means Mashiach can come right this second, right now, in the middle of right before I finish my next word. He can come any second. And therefore, because He can come now, we therefore have to anticipate that it be literally today. So we have to say Mashiach's coming right this second. And most certainly, when we're standing on the threshold of redemption, because we can see with all the signs and the Baal Tshuvas and the wonderful things that are happening in the world, and the people who's turning to God right and left. And I mean, I live in Pico Robertson. I just walk down the street and I just see these wonderful Jews who 5 years, 10 years ago didn't know much about God, didn't know much about anything. They were just wonderful people, but lost. And now they're smiling and helping each other out. They helped each other out before, but now they're smiling and they're believing in God. And that the level of help is amazing. I always tell people that I know there are many good people in the world, and some people, even some people who don't know about Torah and mitzvahs, and people who are not Jewish. There are many wonderful people in the world. But if a person learns Torah, and he does it in a way that it be part of him, and that he wants to make himself better, he shines more. And the Rebbe is saying, if you learn in Yonim of Geula, matters of redemption, that you're going to shine more. Let's see what it says. And most certainly, when we're standing on the threshold of redemption, indeed, the contemplation is upon three things, which with advanced vigor and greater strength. There was once a person named Ed. He was a homeless guy. He must have been about 45, 50. I remember I was sitting talking to him on the street one day, and he was telling me several times he was envisioning that any minute now he's going to be very rich, and he'd be driving around L.A. in this beautiful, great car, limousine, and he would be passing out money to everybody. And his mind he was living. He was in the worst shape, but when he was talking about this, he was like another person. And he was getting chayes from that. And that's something that, who knows, it happened or not. But the same thing here is that we get so much into Mashiach, it brings us gula. And we may say, now the Rebbe says another thing, this is a very, very amazing thing, the Rebbe is saying, very major Kiddush, that the contemplation upon the aspects of the third redemption and the third base of Mikdash, three things, accomplishes a perfection in all aspects of service which are included in the three things, the three realms of Torah to service, Torah, there's learning Torah, service, prayer, and acts of kindness, which are accomplished through the vestments of the soul. These are the vestments, the very clothings of the soul, namely thought, speech, and action. So how do you fulfill these three? How do you be a good guy and learn and play with your heart? You do it through thought, speech, and action. That the service is not in a manner of division. You're not like, today I get up, I daven, I learn Torah. They're not like separate services. Not all encompassing. Rather, in a manner of boundlessness, and due to being beyond boundlessness, it has the perfection of all aspects. So the Rebbe is saying here an amazing thing, that when you get into Mashiach, and the Rebbe is saying now it's easier than ever, since we're standing right before it's going to happen, and every day we're supposed to want it. And when you get totally much into Yonim Mashiach, the Rebbe said we reach a level that everything we do becomes a Mashiach. Everything we do is a Mashiach way. that you're helping somebody out, you're realizing that your times of Mashiach, and you do it with joy, and you realize that you're helping this Jew out, you're helping bring redemption, and everything has to be done. Like everything you have to think about, I'm doing this to bring Gula Shlema. And you get totally into it. It says then everything you do will be complete. That's why it's so important today to learn Dvar Malchus, to learn what the Rebbe says. As he pointed out, this is the essence and the most important Torah to learn that speaks about the future redemption. That's the Rebbe. Actually, the Rebbe says this, and he says it in, if you look at Parshas Chukas, in the footnote 11, he talks about the most important time to learn is from the 28th of Nisan, which would be right after Pesach, on Tafshin and Aleph would be 91. And we may, okay, now we're on number 13. And we may add to this that also in connection with what was spoken above regarding the addition and learning from the 15th of Av and on, 3 things allude to the Torah, threefold Torah, especially including the new secrets that will be revealed by me. So we have to learn the new secrets in the third redemption, which the preparation for this is through additional Torah study in a boundless manner from the 15th of Av and on. And according to this, we may explain the instruction of the Mishnah. Contemplate upon 3 things. You should... Did I skip that one thing? I'm sorry, I have to go back. We're going to go back to the prior paragraph. There's one footnote that's very, very amazing that I didn't, that I skipped. I put 134. So it says over there that in the end of the paragraph, right before 13, it says that the service should not be a matter of division, but i.e. not all-encompassing, rather in a manner of boundlessness, and due to its being beyond bounds, it has the perfection in all aspects. What's it mean? It's perfected in every aspect. The Rebbe says an amazing thing. Now, all the Tanya and everything we learned up to here talks about that there's different levels of service of God, and there's a person who's a tzaddik, who's a righteous person, and he's a true tzaddik, means a complete tzaddik, has no negativity, and he doesn't have any bad desires. So in instance, like so that's a true tzaddik. But he says very few people, just like the Rebbe, very few people in the world can reach this level of being a true tzaddik. Most people, he says, are lower level, or most people, if they could be a Beinani means an intermediary, means you're half fighting inside yourself, but you always do what's right. So that person to become this level of a complete tzaddik, that he shouldn't even have thoughts to do anything, or desires, or anything just come to his mind. It doesn't even exist. So the Rebbe says, by looking deeply into the Torah, he says, this doesn't even affect you. Let's look at number 134. Similarly, regarding it says, so what we're talking about, they're looking to 3 things. We're talking about positive commandments. But it says that when you do it, you can do all your positive in an unlimited way. So it says also in reference to Surmei Ra, turning away from evil, as a continuation in the Mishnah says, you shall not come to transgress. Devarim, and you won't come to the hands of Avera. So what's it mean? So it says that you will not come to an Avera to transgress, and you will not come specifically when you're not going to come. It's not going to happen to you at all. It's not even going to come like close to you. It's not going to be there automatically, because without needing to occupy in negating the evil and not even come to transgress. In other words, in general, you say, okay, I want to do this. I'm too lazy. I don't want to get up. I don't want to do this. This guy said, whatever it is. And you have this negative thought, and you say, that's not right. And you push it away, and you go serve God. That's wonderful to do. But the Rebbe says, by getting totally involved in Mashiach, he says you won't even have this negative desire thought. You won't even have something that you have to push away. Meaning that even things that can lead to transgression, like taivas, like a permitted desires, indulgence, become automatically out of question as a result of the reflection upon matters of redemption. And this is a foretaste of how it will be in the days of Mashiach. This is an amazing thing. Rebbe says, by totally getting involved in Mashiach, we'll see that we won't even have permitted desires. We'll just want to serve God by learning the Rebbe stuff. We'll just want to serve God, and this is how this is like tasting Mashiach. Why? said, as the rule of Aram says at the end of the culmination of his works in the Mishnah Torah, that in that time all the delicacies will be found like the dust of the earth, specifically like the earth. What's it mean? Which has no importance, since the pursuit of the entire world will be only to know God. So this is an amazing thing. In other words, what's it talking about? Delicacies and desires. So here you're sitting and learning. Maybe I have a permitted desire. I smell the beautiful fish that's cooking and I want to eat some fish now. But why I'm simply studying? It's a permitted desire. So I push out away. I say, no, I'm studying this. But times of Mashiach, that would be nothing to me, because I'm studying about God and Gula, redemption, and the wonders of the Jewish people. He says, so what's the foretaste? How do you reach a level that all these desires, and they could be wonderful things, just like dust? He says, by getting totally into Mashiach, by getting totally into what the Rebbe teaches, and especially the last year. And okay, so let's go further. And how much time do we have? Okay, so I think we can finish this. So back to 13. It's on page 55. And we may add to this, that also in connection with what was spoken above, regarding the addition and learning Torah from the 15th of Av and on. We said over there you have to learn more. 3 things also alludes to the Torah, a threefold Torah, especially including the new secrets that will be revealed by me in the third redemption, and which preparation for this is through addition of Torah studies in a boundless manner from the 15th day of Av and on, like we said earlier. And according to this, we may explain that the instruction of the Mishnah contemplate upon 3 things. Think about 3 things, which is studied on the Shabbos day, on the day after the 15th of Av. Remember this, the Rebbe said this on the 16th of Av, that although each and every person has taken a resolution on the 15th of Av, because we're supposed to take resolutions to do wonderful things, especially special days, and the 15th of Av is such a special day, and has started actually fulfilling their resolutions to add in Torah study. Nevertheless, on the day of Shabbos, the day following it, one must evaluate and contemplate on an additional time, that is resolutions, and add even more to them in a double manner. Why in a double manner? Because the Rebbe says Shabbos is the idea of double. So therefore, even though we made these big resolutions after the 15th of Av, just the Mashiach and the Gula and all these wonderful things, Shabbos comes, we have to even double our resolutions, double what we're going to do. Until they will be a befitting preparation, a foretaste for the boundlessness of the new Torah secrets that will be revealed by me, the ultimate perfection of the threefold Torah and the third redemption. Now we're on number 14. So, the Rebbe I hope you get a chance to read this in English or Hebrew, but the Rebbe just builds up and up and up, and it basically it's beyond wonderful. 14, and may it be the will of Hashem, that from the reflecting of the deep analysis, contemplation upon the aspects of the third redemption and the third base of Mikdash, reflect upon 3 things. It says, this you should look into 3 things. We shall merit to immediately see the third redemption and the third base of Mikdash, actually, literally, immediately. And simply on Parshas Va'eschanan, Shabbos Nachamu, before the beginning of the reading Torah of the following Parsha during the Mincha prayer, which begins, and it should be as a result of your heeding, Ekev Tishma'un, which is pertinent especially to this period of time, as is known, that Ekev, the name of the Parsha after this is called Ekev, that Ekev, that as a result of, literally, Ekev means to heal, refers to the conclusion of the days of the exile, the footsteps of Mashiach, which then certainly you will heed, guard, and do them, all the matters of Torah and commandments, in thought, speech, and action, 3 things. So this refers to now, Ekev, that we did, especially in the times right before Mashiach, and we see the fulfillment of the request of Moshe Rabbeinu, that Moshe Rabbeinu says he's the first Redeemer and the last Redeemer. Please, Moshe Rabbeinu, with this week's Parshas Va'eschanan, we started the Sikha out, talks about, but Moshe Rabbeinu asked Hashem that please let me go over and let me see the good land, this fine hill country, referring to Yerushalayim, and Lebanon, referring to the base of Mikdash. That Moshe Rabbeinu, our teacher, and his whole generation, as well as all the Jewish people of all generations, together with the Jewish people of our generations, while all are young, and with all our old, and with all our sons, and with all our daughters, and the leader of our generation at our head, Rebbe Malchus, and we come and enter the Holy Land and proceed to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem, the holy city, and then to the Holy Mount, the Har Kodesh, and then to the third base of Mikdash, the third holy temple. And we celebrate there with the rejoicing of redemption. We're going to sing and dance and be so beyond happy. Unbelievable. As much as you could ever imagine, and you can imagine how beautiful it's going to be. With an immensely great joy, and even in comparison to the rejoicing upon the drawing of the water, which is about it, they said, whoever has not seen the rejoicing upon the drawing of the water has never seen joy in his life. In the times of the base of Mikdash, on Sukkot's time, they used to pour, the special time they would pour the holy water on the altar, and they made this big like place for the women to sit, and everybody could sit, and everybody came, and they had these big torches that were in these big columns that you had what teenager Kohanim do, these big guys. They would be walking up and down these ladders, filling these torches with pitchers full of oil, and that the clothing was the old clothing of Kohanim Gadol. Those are the wicks, and there was so much light coming out from this that it says that at any place in Yerushalayim people could check for bugs, and probably they didn't find bugs at that time because it's such a special time. And the people were dancing and singing, and it was like party, like it says, somebody never saw true rejoice, true joy. The Rebbe said that the redemption should be even much more greater than that. So that pretty soon, any minute, we have to realize that we're going to be sitting in the base of Mikdash, seeing the ultimate joy. And in the wording of the sages at the end and the culmination of Tractate Vatinus, in the Talmudic discussion that there will be no holidays for the Jewish people like the 15th of Av. In the future, Hashem, what they talk about in the end of the Gemara over there, in the future, Hashem will make a circle dance for the righteous. This is amazing. And he will sit in their midst. And each and every person will point with his finger, as it says, that Hashem will be sitting with us. And he's sitting around us. And we're going to point our finger on that day. And he said, behold, this is our God, in whom we have trust. And he will deliver us. And this is Hashem, in whom we trust. And let us be glad and rejoice in his deliverance. So this is, we're all going to be doing this. Zaygasund to everybody. Mirz Hashem, I hope everybody learned something really wonderful. We're going to continue learning the great words of the Rebbe, and continue hopefully getting more and more into it, so we can dance to the redemption in a complete happy way.